Good evening. We're just going through some of the technical things to get prepared for tonight's show. New Day Black and Red will be coming up in about 60 seconds. New Day Black and Red live from Fort Worth, Dallas, or Dallas, Fort Worth, and Washington, D.C. Yours truly, the exceptional one, marking off time. We'll be right with you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. We are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism. What is the power of liberation? First to the Republican and then the socialists. New Day Black and Red featuring the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones, his peon-in-chief, Ken McClinton. What a glorious night this is because we both have something in common beyond this show. It is his Tsarina, my bouncer-in-chief, Mary Brockman, as she celebrates her birthday today. And the reason is that I know this is because Deborah Frazier, my assistant, notified me this afternoon that I better wish Mary a happy birthday, unlike the fact that I didn't wish her a happy birthday back in March. Gee, I tell you. But congratulations, Mary Brockman. Happy birthday to you. You look beautiful, and I pray that you have many, many more, and that you enjoy this particular day. Some of you all are listening to us via the Exceptional Conservative Show. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong button tonight, so it's not showing up in the New Day Black and Red. Can you forgive me? I hope you can. Happy birthday, Mary. And happy belated birthday to Deborah. Okay, I'm very sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking tonight about the president's powers, specifically the War Powers Act and his ability to fire appointees. There is a lot. And this is why I'm so glad to have the professor on, just a stalwart of political history, constitutional study. Every time the leftists lose, those are the same guys who fight against the Constitution. They become constitutional scholars. And in so doing, they victimize America's young people with false information, false news, fake news, however way you wish to say it, lies and innuendos regarding the Constitution. And quite frankly, is this on? Yeah, it's my head straight. There we go. Okay, there we go. There are individuals who wish you to think that, unfortunately, the president has exclusive powers over everybody and everything, and literally we're all going to go to hell thanks to Donald Trump. And then there are some who say that only a president who is a leftist has certain powers. A president on the right certainly doesn't. We're going to explore those particular things tonight because we really need to illuminate and educate and get you the talking points that you need. And not that they're really talking points because we really don't discuss anything beforehand. But certainly that you understand exactly what the role of the President of the United States is and what his powers are, so that you don't feel deft when you're standing there and someone at the water cooler is attempting to persecute you relentlessly with their brand of ignorance, dare I say. You know how we get this thing started. For those who are watching us via live stream, you see that huge flag right over there. There you go. And for those of you who are watching us via Ustream, right behind me, there we go. Ooh, this way. Okay, there we go. We got a big flag right there. There are other flags that you'll see in the office that I have. I hope that you have your own flags. But this is the day, the hour, the time that we do the Pledge of Allegiance. And right behind me here, right there, in fact, is the wording for the Pledge of Allegiance. I know I'm blocking it for those who are watching it via live stream. I'm going to step back a little bit so that you might be able to see it. But we're going to take off our hats and put them aside for just a few moments. And we're going to take our right hand, we're going to put it over our heart, and then we're going to pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Take it away, kids.
Take your parents. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow. That is absolutely beautiful. And ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that your children say the Pledge of Allegiance before they leave home. There's no guarantee that they'll be able to say it when they get to wherever they're going. We're about to dial up, of course, the underground professor himself, Dr. Michael Jones. Dr. Jones, paging Dr. Jones. Here we go. Let's call him up because I know he wants to wish Mary Brockman a happy birthday. Happy birthday from all of us to you. Happy birthday. Enjoy this cake and ice cream too. There you go. Happy birthday. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, Professor. Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor from undergroundprofessor.us with us tonight. It is a plum pleasing pleasure to have you on the air with us tonight.
Well, if anybody knows plump.
Thank you very much. I want you to know I lost a lot of weight today. It fell off my fork.
I can say, turn around. I think I found it. It fell off your fork.
Good evening, Professor. How are you doing this day?
Well, I've been mad all day.
Why?
I don't know why.
Why you been mad? Why you been mad all day?
Oh, well, y'all know that Megan's health isn't good, and she had to go to Corpus Christi, which is about an 8-hour drive, and she left her phone on silent and forgot, and I had been calling her all day, and I finally got her at a truck stop, and she happened to see her phone light up, so it's been 9 hours of me worrying something happened to her.
Wow. Is she okay?
So I've been kind of, just fine, and now mad at me for being mad.
You can't be mad with a woman. It's okay for a woman to be mad with you, but you cannot be mad with a woman. Okay? So let's just get that understood. You have no rights to emotions. Emotions belong to women. You have no emotions.
I know they think I don't have any except for happy and horny, but mad, but hungry. I think those are my 4 emotions.
4 emotions. Oh, give you the best of my love. The emotions. Happy, horny, hungry, and mad. But we can't be mad, so we're stuck with 3.
And one of them doesn't do me any good, so I'm just horny, or hungry and happy.
Hungry and happy. There you go.
Or happy I'm hungry, I guess. I don't know.
There's a Taco Bell nearby. Professor, have you gone back to have you come back to radio, sir? Or are you on the air again?
Oh, I meant to, but I haven't been able to. Yeah, my schedule. We've had so many people calling sick and exhausted. You know, it's like in the 80s here, and everybody's dropping like flies already. I don't know how we're going to make it through the summer.
Wow.
But, everybody's exhausted and calling in sick, and so we're out splitting, 9, 10 routes every day. I've been lucky to get home before 7. So it's been terrible this week. I tried. I had intended to. I was going to simulcast with you tonight, but I didn't get home in time to even do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe next week. That's becoming my motto. Next week.
Next week. It's better than mañana. Tomorrow.
Well, I'm afraid they'll send me over the border if I say mañana. Yeah. Good.
And how are the
Oh
dogs?
boy,
How are the dogs, sir?
they're doing well. They're all outside right now since it's not nice. I think letting them stay outside. So it's really nice. The house is de-haired. So
Even
there's
Winston?
no even Winston.
Wow. Wow.
Winston, the pugs, the shepherds, and dog. They're all outside.
Wow.
Every time I go outside, they all act like I punished them to death, but they'll get over it. They're dogs.
You know that this is a very special day in America.
It's your 7th anniversary or Mary's birthday?
It is Mary's birthday.
That's right. Oh, happy day when she was born. Long ago on a sunny morning, the world rejoiced and the doctor said, "Hey, Mary, oops, we dropped Ken on his head." Happy birthday, Zarina.
Happy birthday, band.
Yabba dabba doo.
Yabba dabba do. Oh my goodness, Bouncer in Chief. Happy birthday to you. We love you dearly. Wow. I was chastised. I don't think she really liked that. I agree.
There it is.
See, it pays to
Sending
be
the love all the way in Texas.
exactly. It pays to be in the chat room, the TECN chat room, the Euro Pacific Bank Limited.
Your Pacific Euro Bank Money Fund.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. It's good to be in there because you get the truth of how people really feel.
Uh-oh. What am I getting? I can feel the love down here.
I know you're getting the angry face. You're getting the angry face.
Oh, that's a woman, right? I get that from women all the time. I pretty much expect it. It's when I don't get it that I get nervous. I'm gonna do my best to talk, man. But today I hate to tell you this because I don't want to tease you, but I was eating Cheetos, and I bit my lip. Something fierce, like it chunked right through. You could almost see the tooth coming out the outside.
Wow!
So it hurts like you would not believe right now.
Wow!
I keep putting ice on it because it's bleeding still. It's been bleeding for like 6 hours.
Dude, that was a good Cheeto. That was a very good Cheeto.
That was the worst I've ever bitten my lip. Let me tell you. That's one of the reasons I've been annoyed all day.
Wow. Well, I tell you what.
I keep putting ice cubes on it. Yeah.
This is what I'm going to do as a remedy for your. Mary's asking, do you need stitches?
I don't know. Probably not.
You don't suck it up.
See.
Yeah. And you'll get your own thread and needle. Yeah, you'll get your own thread and needle for this, won't you?
If I have to.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Okay.
Yeah. Done it before. But in the Air Force, went through survival school, and they gave us those curved parachute needles and thread, so we had to sew ourselves up. And if you got cut out there during survival school, you had to sew yourself up. So I've done it before.
Wow, you're on your own. Mary suggests ice cubes wrapped in scotch. Good start.
Wrong, but yes, she's very close.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, awesome.
I got the Baptist version.
No, Baptists don't use ice cubes that have liquor in them. Not in front of
what?
Not in front of other
people. Not in front of other Baptists.
That's right.
You're not people, Baptists. They'll do it in front of people. They won't do it in front of other Baptists.
So this is what we're going to do because we know you are a God-fearing Baptist. Wink, wink. Uh, we're going to give you the opportunity to go get some rum for your ice. And we will be right back after these particular breaks. You're listening to New Day Black and Red live on the Exceptional Conservative Network. In spite of the fact that I pressed the wrong button and you're seeing it on the Exceptional Conservative Show, we'll make that change. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
We're not even pretending it's my show tonight.
Don't take it like that.
What? No.
I'm beginning to feel like you're taking it the wrong way. We'll be right back.
It's time for Unity in America. I'm David Longoria, trumpeter and singer. Join me Saturday, May 20th as we celebrate the 19th annual White House Day of Prayer for Our Nation. The event's founder, Reverend Dr. Terry Lee of Brooklyn, brings many churches and organizations together for this special day where we, the people, will join together for prayer and uplifting and leave our politics behind. There will be leaders from across the country as well as artists singing and praying together for our people, our nation, and our leaders. I will be joined by a 1,000 voices choir as we perform my new song of unity, We Are One. Come to the White House lawn in the Ellipse Park Saturday, May 20th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with a special music hour at 3. Register now online for free at whitehouseprayer.org. That's whitehouseprayer.org.
I'm Ken McClinton, chairman of the Exceptional Conservative Network. Never has the cry for economic liberty been more resounding in urban America than on Election Day 2016. It's the economy. All real change begins with the American entrepreneur. Socialism did not work. Progressivism stole the wealth of individuals and families. You voted for something different, real change. But what does real change look and sound like? It looks like Las Vegas, and it sounds like Freedom Fest 10. Freedom Fest, the world's largest gathering of free minds, is a popular liberty-minded conference at the beautiful Paris Resort in Las Vegas from July 19th to the 22nd. Hear the voices of the urban freedom movement, Deneen Borelli, Larry Elder, Gina Lofton, Helen Rowley, Juan Pablo Andrande, and Zayad Abdullah. Share ideas with powerful liberty movement figures like Steve Forbes, Jim Rogers, Anthony Scaramucci, Jennifer Grossman, Naomi Brockwell, Dinesh D'Souza, John Stossel, Lisa Kennedy, Peter Schiff, and our keynote speaker this year, William Shatner. Your money, your liberty, your freedom, your city. Come for the real and return with the change. Register now at freedomfest.com for $100 off the regular registration rate when you use the all caps code TECN. We'll see you there. Our amazing hosts at the Exceptional Conservative Network broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, sometimes they get lonely. Be the solution for HLS, host loneliness syndrome. Join us for advice, delightful conversation, and debate in the world's best forum, the Euro Pacific Bank TECN chat room. Go to theexceptionalconservativeshow.com right now. Join us in chat by clicking on the TECS tab, Bible Study tab, or TECN tabs. The host you'll save makes TECN amazing. We'll be back after these messages.
It's a love story like no other. From God's heart to yours. And for 30 years, it's been at the heart of every book, Bible, CD, gift, and resource from ChristianBook.com. Over 500,000 products, always at the very best value. ChristianBook.com. everything Christian, because it's our story too.
From day's first light till night's last glimmer, your satisfaction is our responsibility. On the range or in the field of duty, you can rely on Brownell's lifetime guaranteed gun parts, tools, and supplies. Anytime, any place. It's how we've done business since 1939. Brownell's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital. We certainly are not ashamed of the good news of conservatism, for it's the power of liberation, first to the Republican, then the Socialist. This is birthday night for my bouncer, his czarina, Mary Brockman. I want to thank Deborah Frazier again, my assistant, for alerting me to the fact that it was her birthday. I had no idea. Happy birthday, Mary Brockman. I am so very proud of you. I'm so thankful to you. We are talking tonight with the great one himself, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor from undergroundprofessor.us. And like I told you all last night, I would make up for all of the commercials that I missed because of the interview that I did last night. And so,
just do them with me.
Yeah, so exactly. So my job is to harass and harangue, annoy, and be as intolerable to the professors I possibly can be. I think I'm doing a good job of that.
We have a winner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Mary has given me the insight that Deborah friended her today, and that's how she knew. So there you go. Thank you, Mary. I knew it was your birthday, Mary. But I thank Deborah for being cognizant and letting her boss know not to screw up. So, because there would be ramifications otherwise.
I'm going to panic. I had a note up here, and now I can't find it.
Oh my goodness! What was
right here with me too, on the table?
Wow!
I had it sitting here.
Wow!
And now it is not there. Where in the world could I have put it? Holy cow! I'm having. I mean, where could things go? Sitting right here beside me.
Exactly. It may have slipped, fallen on the floor, or all those kind of things can happen.
Could have.
Yeah, it's amazing how things like that happen.
Oh, it's in the computer.
All right.
It was on. Yeah. Okay. Crisis averted. No one has to look for it. You can all stop looking.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, baby.
There you go. Oh, everyone, calm down now. Calm down.
That's right. No panic. Nothing to say here. Move along.
According to Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, the executive authority given to the President of the United States to carry out the duties of the office include executive power that shall be vested in a President of the United States, making the President the head of the executive branch of the federal government. And in sections 2 and 3, it enumerates specific powers granted to the President, which include the authority to appoint judges, ambassadors, and other high-ranking government officials, veto legislation, call Congress into special session, grant pardons, issue proclamations and orders, administer the law, and serve as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Article 2 also gives the President authority to recommend measures for congressional consideration. Pursuant to this authority, presidents submit budgets, propose bills, and recommend other action to be taken by Congress. It seems that the President of the United States has a lot under his belt. But is he the most powerful person in our government?
Well, if you want to look at it as any one individual who's the most powerful, then I would say yes.
Okay.
As an individual he is, because he is an entire branch of government of one person. but he's co-equal to the other two branches if you look at the consideration. When they say co-equal branches of law, you know, we already know that the founders thought that the judiciary would be the least harmful to us and stuff, but they would call it a co-equal branch, even though the original Supreme Court met in the basement of the of Congress, right? It wasn't until like the 20s or whatever when they built the Taj Mahal over there,
Exactly.
Washington D.C. for him.
Well, those were
Rome,
good digs in that basement, man. I tell you.
But you know what? It served its purpose, and it also served to show its role in government. But when we built the Taj Mahal for them, you know, then they became elevated, you know, emperor type people on high, and so then we started looking at them as if they were infallible creatures, like, you know, 9 popes sitting on judgment on us, and a lot of that was the imagery of the progressives and what they created by creating the Supreme Court building. But before, we looked at them exactly what they were. They met in the basement, and they looked over to make sure that there was, you know, the Constitution wasn't violated by any of the laws being passed. They had a very limited role in government life. But by co-equal, the founders meant under the rule of law.
Okay.
That we had separated powers, you know, by 3. Well, you said something that is called the vesting clause. Have you ever heard that before? The vesting clause?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Okay. I don't want you to blow through that.
Okay.
Because that is so critical to what we're talking about tonight. The executive power, and this is section 1 of Article 2.
Yes.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is, you know, memory, but I wrote out a little note here for me so that I didn't forget. Oh man, I thought I lost the note again. A little note here. I've got this little 2 by 3 inch sheet of paper with about 18 notes scribbled all over the place in different directions and then circles and whatnot. But Article 2, Section 1, Article 2 covers the executive branch. Article 1, the legislative, and Article 3, the judiciary. Okay, Article 2, Section 1, the vesting clause, says the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. Okay? That doesn't say anything except all executive power will be invested in the president. Now let's go back to Article 1, Section 1, the vesting clause of Congress. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a House and a Senate. Okay? A House of, what is it? A House of Representatives, legislative branch, House and Senate, 2 houses, high cabinet. Okay, so that's the vesting clause. Now, catch that. All legislative powers, not all legislative powers, like Nancy Pelosi would assume you to believe. Remember we got to read it to know what's in it. We got to vote on it first. Okay, yeah, and then when she was asked what power, what part of the Constitution powered Congress to create Obamacare, her response was, "You got to be kidding. Ask me a serious question." Well, in the progressive world, they stopped right there. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in Congress. They forgot the word herein. Herein means those words located inside the Constitution, meaning the enumerated powers, which we shall find from Section 2 through Section 10, I think. Right? 10 sections in Article 1, I believe. And it tells you who can be a senator and what powers they have, like postal roads and stuff, especially when you get down to like Article 8, which is very important because it has all kinds of stuff, which specifically we're talking tonight about the War Powers Act, and who has that power. And it says in Article 8 that they have the power to grant letters of marque and reprisal, make rules concerning capture on land and both land and water, and to declare war. Okay. Now, if you've got it written down and you want to read it. If I'm not getting it close enough to verbatim, then go ahead and interrupt me and read it verbatim.
No. Go right ahead.
Okay. Now, those words are all important too. First off, the legislative powers that are located here, and meaning those that are listed in the enumerated powers in the Constitution in Article 1, belong to Congress. The vesting power of the executive branch is put all on the one guy. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know if we'll have time to do both the War Powers Act and whether or not presidents can fire people, which is going to be coming up pretty soon in Trump's administration, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
If I understand things happening right, then he's going to start getting rid of bureaucrats, and we're going to have a coup storm occur in Washington.
Yeah.
So we might as well get ahead of that on one of these shows.
Exactly.
But I don't know if we have time to do all that tonight.
We'll make time. We'll make time tonight because I think that's very poignant. The budget came up last month. There was a proposal to cut across the board 20% in each agency. Now, here and there, 20% may not necessarily mean 20%. It may be 20% of the expected growth going towards that particular agency. It's one interpretation of it. Some in the Freedom Caucus. Yeah, some
it's not a zero growth thing. Yeah, but where before it's a reduction in the growth of government. Mm-hmm. This time Trump means a reduction.
Exactly.
A real reduction across the board. Yeah.
Exactly.
Except for essential services.
And that
like military.
Right now there is some difference between the Tuesday meeting group and the Freedom Caucus, because the Freedom Caucus understood it the way you interpret it. The Tuesday meeting group or the moderates in the U.S. House of Representatives do not see it that way. Yeah,
well, no, because they're invested in big government.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see whose vision prevails.
Mm-hmm.
But I would happily accept a 20% reduction in the growth of government based on the Tuesday group's vision, because that's more than we've gotten in a long time anyways.
Well, exactly.
I would take it.
Exactly.
But still what we need is the real one. Now, Article 3 is the vesting clause, Section 1, for the judiciary. And it says the judicial power of the U.S. will be vested in one Supreme Court and other courts that are inferior that Congress from time to time wants to ordain and establish, the ordained and established thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Then it says that they have, now this is important, in the vesting clause it says that if they serve in good faith, then they serve for life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that they'll get compensation that Congress can't screw with. Now, those words are important because that is how justices and judges are treated under our Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you go and you look at the bureaucrats today, one of the problems with them is that they are actually all three branches of government, which is how I established that they're unconstitutional. Because in these bureaucrats, they hold all three branches of government's powers, which are vested in the government and cannot be revested or loaned.
Yes.
Or
transferred.
What's the word I want? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I can't think of the word I actually want, but that's close enough.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be set down for other people to use. That's unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. So when you see that these bureaucrats serve for life, basically, you can't fire them, and their pay can't be screwed by Congress or by the president. That they get their pay and it's negotiated and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same power that the justices have, and so an argument can be made that these people have judicial power. And in these regulatory agencies, there are judges, actual judges, who sit and judge They're employees of the regulatory agency, and they sit in judgment of we, the people, when we violate one of the rules, regulations, etc., that a bureaucrat creates, not through the legislative, not a law, but through the legislative process. And so, and what I'm saying there is that there are what we would call Article 3 courts, which mean courts that are vested under Section 1, Article 3, like the Supreme Court and the inferior courts. And then there are regulatory courts, which hold judicial power over our lives and can fine us and jail us. Mm-hmm. And those are extra constitutional. They're a violation. They're a bastardization of our Constitution. And another way of showing you that they are illegal, that they're not constitutional. And we should not have to follow them because of that. But, I dare you to try.
Exactly.
And, yeah. But anyway, look at the difference in the wording of those three Section 1s. And that's important because the Article 2, Section 1 says that the president gets all executive power.
Yes.
Not enumerated, not herein, all executive power. When we talk about various things, I want you to remember that when we come back to it, because I'm going to say, hey, and remember, all the power vested in the president, mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I was on the very talented Tim Tap Into the Truth show last week or week before. I can't remember now. And I went on specifically to talk about the War Powers Act. And I pontificated and had a great show, and it was amazing. I was perfect. But then I got to thinking, and I say this because I'm a million times more humble than now.
Exactly. I am honored by your humility.
For sure.
as
you should.
As I should.
That just shows how intuitive you are.
Thank you very much. I learned from the best.
After being on the show, I got to thinking about some stuff. I don't know why. It just kept creeping into my head, about Federalist 51, Federalist 9, Federalist 10, Federalist 75. These things started crawling through me. And then for some reason, I started thinking about the vesting clauses.
Yes.
And Article 1, Section 8, talking about the president. And so I started thinking about the notes on the stuff. And the reason we're doing the show we're doing is because I was thinking about the first Congress under the Constitution, the first Congressional Congress. They had a debate over appointments. Mm-hmm. Okay, because this was the first time appointments were being made. Washington was appointing people to his cabinet, and the Senate had to advise and consent. Well, then it came up that they wanted to fire somebody. Mm-hmm. And so there was a firestorm of debate, and you can go back to the congressional record and look this stuff up if you're interested, but they were debating who has the correct power to fire people in the executive branch. Now, you would think that it would be intuitive that the president hires who he wants and fires who he wants.
Yes.
But the arguments are being made by Amos and other people, but wait a minute. The Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, everything says that we have to advise and consent to presidential appointments. So if we have that role, then we also have to advise and consent to presidential firings.
Wow.
So they were trying to make that case that they had a right to be involved in this. Yeah. Madison and Hamilton both said no. And they looked at this because this didn't come up during the debates on the Constitution, evidently. The appointments, that they clause, of advice and consent and all that came up. But no one really thought the next step, well, wait, what if we want to get rid of somebody? It was just kind of assumed that the president doesn't like the way somebody's serving, he can get rid of them because, look, who is responsible for the executive branch? It's the president. He's responsible for everything. Now,
Well,
can the president
yeah,
be a customs agent in New York and be worried about, navigable waters in Ohio at the same time? I say no. There's too many things that the executive branch legitimately has to do. So one man can't do it all. And because of that, he has to have staff, and he has to have a bunch of agents working for him, right?
Yes.
And okay, so we know this. We have against custom agents, FBI, CIA. I mean, all these people, they all work in the executive branch. Now, this is interesting because if you think about it, Abraham Lincoln was given one assistant. Okay, I think the entire cabinet of Thomas Jefferson was 6 people. Abraham Lincoln was given one assistant besides his cabinet. He had one assistant to do all the work that he needed to do. He was given one more assistant, so he actually had 2 assistants. And I think one was on loan from the Navy or the War Department or something to him because of the Civil War. Because he was actually in a wartime footing, they gave him a second assistant. Now, think about how many people worked for Obama or for Trump.
Yeah.
Right now. All right. So here's the thing.
Let's do this. I gotta take a quick break here. But when I come back, I want to summarize again the vesting clause, what the vesting clause is, and I have a question for, because I can ask you something. I want to ask you
anything
about that vesting clause. We'll be right back with more of the best. You're listening to New Day Black and Red with the Underground Professor. We are talking tonight about the powers of the presidency. What are they, and how does he get them? We'll be right back.
With home values up and interest rates near all-time lows, you probably know that now is a great time to refinance, like the Johnsons, who saved $436 a month.
$436 a month?
It's simple. Just go to LendingTree.com, compare loan offers for free, and see how much you could save in just 5 minutes.
I thought you said the bank gave you the best rate.
Yeah.
LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
I have to do everything myself.
Someone is sleeping on the couch tonight.
From the warfront to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the Underground Professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Shekinah Ranch is involved in helping youth through the snags along the pathway to adulthood. The last 8 years have created greater challenges. Having a president to parade perversion to our youth has generated the need for us to ramp up our character learning 100-fold. Today's youth are confused. Our goal is to give them a fresh understanding of creation, moral clarity, respect for authority. In short, restore absolutes and boundaries. Boys are born boys and girls are born girls. God's design. Right is right even when no one else is doing it. The Exceptional Conservative Network is underway to raise $10,000 to help advance this mission. Together, let's reverse the confusion aimed at our youth. Don't be a spectator. Go to our donation portal and make your financial contribution. Do it now. Your gift goes towards helping youth get clarity. Moral clarity. Thank you.
Could the troll train soon be derailed by the president allowing others to drive it off the tracks? Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, as much as I like President Trump and his vision for making America great again, there is an increasing cause for concern. Candidate Trump boldly proclaimed that he would fight to drain the swamp, meaning that the government would once again be of, by, and for the people. I understand that in some instances a bit of pragmatism is in order when it comes to complex issues, but the president must not allow others to hijack his vision and jettison the reasons he was elected into office. For example, the border wall that the globalist speaker Paul Ryan and others don't want built has announced funding is not available until 2018. But of course, he is counting on us forgetting that during the George W. Bush administration, money was set aside for the building of a massive fence for our southern border that cannot be used for any other purpose. So technically, there is funding available to better secure our southern border. Likewise, neither the president or we the people can afford Speaker Ryan's mission to put off needed plans to cut corporate and general tax rates. Mr. President, please don't allow Speaker Ryan and others to derail America's recovery or your presidency. I'm Ron Edwards.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to New Day Black and Red live from Washington, D.C., and also Dallas-Fort Worth, or Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas, where the professor, Dr. Michael Jones, is joining me tonight. I sit at his feet. I massage them and pedicure and everything else. I hope he likes the color of the nails. I want to thank the great people. Hey. I want to thank the great people at Red Nation Rising. And I know some of you all will be disappearing shortly. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And as well, the great people at SHR Media for carrying us live. Also, Ustream, Livestream, and all other channels that pick this particular program up. New Day Black and Red every Thursday night at 9:10 p.m., 9:05 p.m. Get it together, Ken. 9:05 p.m.
Sometime.
Eastern Time. One of those days and times, every Thursday. So there you go. We give you a constitutional as well as a biblical viewpoint of today's current issues. Professor, I can ask you something, and I want to ask you this question right here. I see vesting in the first, the second, and the third article, and they're in section 1s in each of those. But in terms of vesting is a verb. Who actually is vesting the authority? And does
Walmart? You get those little blue vests.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I was concerned. I was really concerned.
Sure.
I thought it was Target. I thought it was Target with the red, but it's Walmart with the blue.
Well, it was until they transgendered their bathrooms.
Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you very much.
When the Democrats are in charge, it's Walmart. When it's that's the whole thing. It's because blue, but now it's Republicans are red. It used to be Target was red, and so it used to fit with the Democrats until they realized that was the same color as the communists, and they changed it during Clinton's administration. Exactly. That's when Republicans became red. For those who don't know that are down low. Yo.
So that is the switch of the parties. That's the not the Nixon going to the South, and that was the switch was the color. Okay, there you go.
But this is ironic because Nixon and the War Powers Act was passed because Nixon was winning the Vietnam War. Can you believe that?
Wow.
The War Powers, my sister just called. The War Powers Act was created by Congress because they were angry at Nixon winning the Vietnam War when they lost it. And so they reined them in. And they kept the funding, which immediately shut down the whole war. Mm-hmm. And that allowed the Paris peace talks with the Vietnamese to, run roughshod over us. And so we lost the peace, but we won the war. And that was all because a Republican was going to win it, and they couldn't stand that. They got us into it, they lost it, and the Republican comes in and fixes that. But that's not the real reason the War Powers Act and Watergate blew up the way it was. I mean, you got to remember this. What Nixon did, it was so terrible, right? Yeah. Of course, now that we've seen Obama, we're laughing at Nixon. But think about this. Nixon didn't do anything different than LBJ or JFK. In fact, JFK and LBJ did the very things to Nixon that Nixon was doing and got caught. Mm-hmm. And nothing really would have happened, even though he was Republican. I make this claim. And this is, not a fact. It's just a claim. Mm-hmm. That's my conspiracy theory. That if Nixon had not gone after the bureaucracy to rein in the executive branch and start cutting programs, getting rid of bureaucrats, had he not done that, Watergate would never have been a big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, they'd have been upset about it, but they wouldn't have started impeaching him. But the reason this happened was because the regulatory state, or what I call the bureaucrat branch, the fourth branch of government, the unconstitutional branch, if he hadn't started trying to get them, this never would have happened.
Yes.
The same thing with Reagan. Reagan went after the fourth estate, and then all of a sudden we got we learned who Oliver North was.
Exactly. Some little colonel.
Right.
All of a sudden we find him. Some colonel. We find him now. He is the antithesis of heaven and earth, and quite frankly, destroying it. We can lose our lives thanks to Colonel Oliver North.
So why do you think there's so much hate against Trump, and he's only been in office 12 weeks?
Exactly.
Because he has claimed he's going to go after the fourth branch of government. And they believe him. And they're going crazy. Because that's who controls us. It's not Congress. They've abrogated. That's it. Subrogated their powers, which is unconstitutional. And in fact, all you have to do is go back and look at all the Supreme Court decisions under Roosevelt, where they said you can't subrogate, you can't delegate these powers. This was figured out during the constitutional debate and the ratification debates. Okay? This was figured out and established. And yet we still have people today who think that this stuff is legitimate. Okay? Look,
now I just want to insert here because we're talking about vesting.
Yes.
We're talking about vesting.
And, you were going to ask me something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and when we come back in the second half, we're going to get into the nitty gritty with the War Powers Act and why we should be concerned that there's a weak Speaker of the House. I'll just say that. But is it the American people that vest these powers, or is it the Constitution that vests this power? Which is it in terms of the framework of our discussion regarding all powers listed in the U.S. Constitution, Articles 1, 2, and 3?
Okay, well, the Constitution is a sheet of paper. It doesn't do anything.
Yep.
All it does is reflect thought.
Thank you.
And the thoughts were that we, the people, in order to form a more perfect union and establish domestic, blah, 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 tranquility, blah, 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 the pursuit of happiness, etc., we came together for a mutual defense pact, basically. Each state being sovereign. The states created the central government under the Constitution. And we, the people, created the states. We're the sovereign. And so we gave these powers. Now, think about this, Tim. The answer to your question is this. Tell me the one law that the entire American people have ever come together to create.
It's the law of the land, the Constitution.
That's right. And the Constitution, they realized we can't make this a statutory law, created by Congress, in session, the Continental Congresses, right?
Yeah.
They created the Articles of Confederation. And that wasn't done by we the people. It was done by Congress. It was a legislative act, statutory, and had very little authority. In order for our Constitution to be the superior law of the land, then it had to be approved by everybody in the land. Right? Everybody had to have a chance to vote. Majority, of course, but and so that they decided that Congress couldn't do this, and they decided that states couldn't do it, that they couldn't have legislatures meet and vote on this, that this had to be put forth between we the people. And so each state was tasked to have a confirmation convention for the Constitution. And we the people all met and voted, and we decided to do this. And that's why it says that when we do this, we're pushing this onto our progeny. Okay? It says flat out that we're binding our children and our children's children to this Constitution forever. Now, you don't have to. You have the right to get your butt on a bus and drive down to Mexico and live in their wonderful land, or Venezuela, you could go get a job making cars in Venezuela because now they own GM in Venezuela because they stole all the property again.
Exactly.
So we have bound future generations to this with the clause that if you don't like it, go away.
Mhm.
But you don't have the right to change it outside of the constitutional, parameters of amendments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Which is,
it's not the right of the judiciary to allow the Congress or the legislature to transfer powers to the executive. It is our responsibility to hold them accountable when they screw up like this and create a bureaucracy so large that it will basically envelop our own Constitution.
well, we the people are supposed to be watchdogs, but
Mm-hmm.
Madison, Hamilton, those guys, when they wrote the Constitution, they had this in mind, that each branch of government would jealously guard their own domains. And so when the executive branch, you got to remember this, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that makes the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence so beautiful is that they took human nature into account. And the rules and regulations therein follow human nature, knowing who we are as human beings and what we're prone to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's all this crap the progressives are always trying to pass that violates human nature, and this is why it doesn't work.
Yes.
Okay? So they realized that the executive would try to acquire power, the legislative branch would try to acquire power, and the judicial branch would try to acquire power. And so they separated these powers, they limited these powers, they enumerated these powers, and then they said, you need to watch them. Not you, the people, but you, the congressman, you, the senator, you, the judge, you, the president, need to watch your power and make sure the other branches don't walk over your area. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so they were supposed to jealously guard their own domains and keep the other branches out of them. And they had ways of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The president has a right to veto legislation. Okay?
Yes.
Now, that doesn't make him a legislator. Okay, Obama says he had a phone and a pen. Bullcrap.
Mm-hmm.
Just because the president carries 1/6 of the votes of the Congress in his pocket, meaning the override of a veto, to a pocket veto or an actual veto, okay? But it doesn't give him the right to legislate. So let's say the Congress writes a law and Trump vetoes it.
Mm-hmm.
Then he doesn't get to sit there and say, you know what, I'm vetoing this law on healthcare and I'm writing my own. Okay? That
Yes.
doesn't work that way. He vetoes it, it goes back to Congress, and they either override the veto or they write a new law and send it to him. When Trump makes an appointment for his staff, his administration, and the Senate advises and consents, and let's say they don't consent, they advise him and say, this guy sucks, we don't want him.
Yeah.
Get somebody else. So they say, no, we're not going to consent to him. Congress doesn't then get to say, you know what, we think John Johnson would be better, so we're going to appoint him to your administration. You see, the Senate doesn't get to appoint people to the administration.
Mm-hmm.
All they can do is advise and consent or not consent. And if they don't consent, then the president, who has the right to appoint the people he wants, has to reappoint someone else or to appoint someone else. Okay, so while they have these shared powers, basically, they say the president has some legislative powers because he can veto. The Senate has some executive power because they advise and consent to treaties and appointments. Well, yes and no. Okay?
Yes.
What it means is that they have checks and balances, but they don't actually have power to legislate or to appoint. These aren't shared powers. But it means that they need each other
Mm-hmm.
to perform the functions of government. Okay? And that's important
Mm-hmm.
because they need to work together. And in order to get, and that's another check and balance by doing that. Plus, we the people have checks and balances. That's the whole electoral college thing, as I've explained before, is a check on the sovereigns of this country. The fact that we're a republic in itself is a check on the sovereigns of this country, that we have representatives that go and represent us as opposed to us doing it for ourselves, you know, a democracy, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so these vesting clauses are very important because it establishes what kind of authority they're going to have and who has it. And when it comes to things like the executive branch and being commander-in-chief, all the powers were stuck in the executive branch.
Mm-hmm.
But to convolute things, if you go back and you look at history, George Washington was constantly frustrated by the Continental Congress getting involved in the minutia of fighting the Revolutionary War. But George Washington, while he convinced about it, did it. He followed the civilian rule.
Mm-hmm.
He made a painstaking effort to show that civilian rule trumped military rule. And because of what he did, and because he laid down his sword at the end of the Revolutionary War and did not, you know, take up the mantle of king,
Yes.
established, you know, the peaceful transfer of power, and that civilian government trumps military in our country. And that prompted King George, who was laughing and saying, you know, it won't be long after George Washington becomes king that the people will hate him and they'll be clamoring for me again because Washington doesn't have the training to be a king. And his advisor leaned over and says, the report is that George Washington laid down his sword, surrendered his title as general, and then retired to his farm.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be apocryphal, but it may not be. It may be true. But King George was cited as saying, if that is true, that Washington laid down his sword and returned to his farm, that he is the greatest man on earth. So, yeah, so there we are. They have these vesting clauses. They have these powers, and those aren't to be just blown over because, you know, today when we look at these things, we've been established now for 240 something, 60 years, whatever it is. We don't even think about the vesting clauses anymore because those are just assumed. Yeah.
But we dutifully should at this point, because there are some who have lost their way in Washington, D.C., which is why we must drain out the swamp.
Yeah, all of them have lost their way in Washington, and everyone we send up there to drain the swamp gets sucked into the, you know, the teeth. And they're suckling on the teeth of government just almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to get people up there because the establishment comes in there and immediately railroads them and says, if you don't do what we say, we're going to cut off your funding and campaign against you and not get any of this nice PAC money. And so with that power, they're able to, you know, coast down everybody. And that's not just at the federal level. I mean, you know, the Speaker of the House of Texas doing the very same thing. Democrat, you know, Strauss, who should be a Democrat, but has realized he won't get elected as a Democrat, so he became a Republican, but still has Democrat ideals and makes deals with the Democrats at the expense of conservative and Republican positions, is holding us, you know, at bay. And there are others, you know, Virginia and other places where Article 5 conventions are being held up because of one person,
Yes,
you know, that has the power to do so. So, you know, you're seeing this at all levels of government. This isn't just a central government issue.
Mm-hmm. Now we're talking with the underground professor, Dr. Michael Jones. We are New Day Black and Red, giving you a constitutional and a biblical viewpoint of current affairs and issues. We have a big issue coming up in the next few weeks. Not only the national debt, which is heinously being kept off the pages of most newspapers today because Donald Trump may be asking Congress to up the national debt. Certainly not one.
That makes me mad.
Yeah, certainly not one of the campaign promises. But in addition to that, the budget is coming up, and there is the drain the swamp attitude, in which those on the right have coveted the opportunity of cutting out the bureaucrats, the fourth estate, the entities of the administration that are held over like the Obamas had planned to derail and deride and to destroy the agenda of the current president. He wants to get rid of them. Well, Congress is saying maybe, but maybe not. And the judiciary may jump in and say, you know what? Marbury versus Madison, or Madison versus Marbury, however way you wish to see it. So tonight we're trying to figure out who has the vital role in America in terms of eradicating the fourth estate. And in addition to that, where do you fit in terms of all of the things that are going on in Washington, D.C., with the vesting of powers that have been granted to those in office? You spoke to the fact in the first hour, Professor, that there's a call for a 20% cut. There's some who want it to be a litmus test for fiscal viability on the right, 20% across the board, except for the essential Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, and also the Pentagon. And then all other agencies get 20% cut. And then there are those who are fighting to make sure that that 20% cut is only on the growth portion of the budget, not on the whole. And so right now, those who have been left over by the 8 years of the Obama administration are acting like Black Lives Matter, trying to hold their spot any way necessary. And they're using the Congress to make that possible. I want, if you could pick it up from there in terms of the vesting powers and how the second article of the U.S. Constitution is being negatively impacted by the first.
Yeah, well, there's a turf war going on right now of survival. The bureaucrats realize they're in survival mode.
Yeah.
And the bureaucrats are Democrats. Okay. I mean, there are 20 to 40% of government is Republican, but depending on what section it is. But for the most part, they realize that the people that they need to, that they elect Democrats because those are the people that get them the pay raises. Those are the people that get them job security and whatnot. And so, for the most part, the Democrat Party is the party of government, and the people of government belong to that party. All right, which is kind of odd because they go out and they vote and campaign for the very people that they will then sit across a table from to negotiate salary and benefits.
Exactly.
Which just seems to be not only unconstitutional but unethical. But hey, they did it, so they get away with it because we've allowed it. The government is too big and it needs to be cut. And when we're borrowing 40% of our budget, I don't remember who it was that said it. Maybe Rush Limbaugh, but it's something that I agree with. The concept of why should we even pay taxes at all? Maybe it was Mark Levin, but someone it got back to me that they said, why should we pay taxes when it doesn't matter how much money they collect from we, the taxpayer, they're going to spend what they want.
Yeah.
And they borrow. Okay, so why should we spend it? And why even tax Americans? Let's just borrow all the money from the Chinese and leave it alone, for the Americans. Let's give us back our money and let us spend it the way we want. And you guys spend the money you want and borrow it. It's not like we could ever pay that much money back anyway, so screw it. Just keep doing it until the whole Ponzi scheme collapses. I kind of agree with that. But you see, here's the thing. We have a Congress, even under Trump, talking about continuing resolutions.
Yes.
And the reason they're doing this is, one of the reasons, and this is a sad truth, but one of the reasons is because no one knows how big government is. There is no flow chart where you can see every agency. No one can even tell you how many agencies are in the central government, let alone who they are, who they report to, what their responsibilities are, what their budgets are, and whatnot. And this is one of the reasons that for the last 8 or 9 years, we've had continuing resolutions instead of budgets, because they can't budget for the entire government because they don't know what the entire government consists of.
Wow.
And this is one of the reasons we've had continuing resolutions. So they can just say, we're going to spend X dollars, and wherever it goes, but we have no idea. Because Congress abrogated the rights that we loan them on a temporary basis each election. They abrogated them to the fourth estate. And they don't know who they are. And every time something has come to Congress's attention that needs to be fixed, or an emergency response, or we got to do this, or we got to take care of that, they create a program. They create bureaucrats. They create an administration state. They create a regulatory agency, etc. ad nauseum. And they don't know how many they created. They don't know who they are. They don't know how much it costs. They don't know how much they get. They don't know what they do with that money. And so if they were to actually budget money, as is Congress' responsibility, and they were to line item it and say this money goes here, that money goes there, then they run the risk of hurting a lot of people who have become dependent on the services of all these nefarious agencies and government entities that have been created over the last 100 years.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, in terms of the concept of the power of war, now, and before we even broach that, I want to ask you against the Marbury versus Madison. What did the Supreme Court say that a president can do with those who are appointed to the post of judges?
Well, not much. And, you know, that was a whole sleight of hand. And it really wasn't so much about Jefferson and Adams and the appointment of judges as much as it was to establish that the Supreme Court was the final decider of what's constitutional.
Wow.
Which is, of course, a violation of how the Constitution was created. You and I, we're the final deciders of what's constitutional. And from us, the states en masse decide, because it's a federated system, right? We're a constitutionally federated republic.
Yes.
And so our state legislatures, who we vote for and are close to us, then instruct the senators that they elect to send to Congress, which is how it's supposed to be. But the progressives got changed to a general election. Then they would go and represent the states, and the states would say, wait, we don't like this. We think this is a violation of our power under the 10th Amendment and 9th Amendment. And so they would instruct their senators to fight it, and things worked out that way for 150 years. Then we changed it, and we directly elect our senators, who no longer represent the state, but the people in general. So they're supernumerary representatives instead of senators, or ambassadors of the state to the central government.
Yes.
And they defederated the federated system. And so whatever Marbury v. Madison decided, it's moot now, because all of that has been thrown away. And but it gave Jefferson the right to remove midnight appointees that Adams made. And that made Jefferson happy, so he allowed the rest of it to happen, which was the backdoor, way of them saying, hey, we're going to make the Supreme Court the final arbiter. And I contend that we have been in a constitutional convention from that point forward.
Exactly.
Because the Supreme Court is in an Article 5 all on its own.
Wow. Wow. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the War Powers Act and why the soupy sales like Democrats have no problem eroding the truth behind the War Powers Act and the Natural War Act that Congress has, and also the powers that the president has in declaring military action and conflict versus war itself. When we come back, you're listening to New Day Black and Red, live from the nation's capital and from Dallas, Fort Worth, and Fort Worth, Dallas, right after these messages.
In this day and age of buck teeth in reverse, it is now racist to protect national sovereignty. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards on today's page from the Edwards Notebook. It used to be commonly understood that racism is unwarranted abuse on all levels against sovereign individuals because of their race. The Democrat Party's heritage is one that is steeped in racism. In fact, Democrat Party racism was so prevalent that the Republican Party was founded to oppose the evil mindset of Democrats. But today, the Democrats are so twisted that they oppose President Trump's revised travel restrictions that are designed to improve the vetting process for those seeking to come into our republic. They say it is racist, wrong, and mean for the American government to dare protect our sovereignty and citizens from those who have vowed to convert us or kill us. Basically, Democrats and other assorted globalists are saying that their judgment is more important than that of our commander-in-chief, who simply wants to protect us from enemies both foreign and domestic. My fellow Americans, the time is now to stand for what is right, including the protection of America the beautiful. God bless you, God bless America, and may America bless God. I'm Ron Edwards.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from the Dreamer Common Sense. You can catch me every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. That's every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, shrmedia.com.
You're listening to the most influential urban conservative talk show in all of the world. Christianity, conservatism, the Constitution, capitalism. We talk about it all right here on The Exceptional Conservative Show at theexceptionalconservativeshow.com. Go there now and join me in chat. We're spreading the good news to the ends of the earth. We'll be back right after these messages.
Hello, this is Leslie Sophie with the Real Clear Israel. Join me every Sunday morning at 10:05 Eastern Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network, where we'll be discussing Israel with guests from Israel and around the world.
That's the Real Clear Israel, 10:05 Sunday on the Exceptional Conservative Network.
From the war front to the streets of our nation's capital, men of faith, Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor, and Kenneth McClinton, the exceptional conservative, bring both constitutional gravitas and spiritual perspective on today's issues to the most influential Christian urban talk show, 9:05 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays. It's a new day on New Day, Black and Red.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know it is that hour of the night that I have to do this to protect myself from the legal ambitions of ambulance chasers like Mamba and delirious fans like Dave Milner. We have to play the Melanie Collette promo. And I must warn you all, get your cigarettes, get ready to go outside. Here is the Melanie Collette commercial.
Money Talk with Melanie is a lively discussion of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Join your business diva, Melanie Collette, as I speak with respected entrepreneurs, CEOs, authors, and politicians as we explore today's fiscal environment. Money Talk with Melanie airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Exceptional Conservative Network. Remember, this is important because it's your money.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, conservative by choice. It's Reverend Ralph Chittum's The Right Guy, on the Exceptional Conservative Network from 4:05 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. The Right Guy on TECN.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to the Exceptional Conservative Network and the New Day Black and Red show. We want to get the professor back online with us. We lost him for a moment. We will attempt to recover him. This is a very important issue regarding War Powers Act, especially with North Korea. Is this Domino's Pizza?
Yes. Today we have a special on fish head pizza.
I put in an order under Ken McClinton, which should have shut your building down.
Oh, yes. That's the one with the 8-pound meatballs.
Yes. I also want to apologize. If you hear helicopters outside, it's a regular occurrence anytime I go on the air. It just is.
Are they black?
They probably are. It just is what it is. Yeah. I get that kind of treatment.
Sure. I was watching the Flintstones the other day. The cartoon came on when I turned on the TV.
Yes.
And, Fred was out in his car, and they pull up to the restaurant, and they brought a rack of ribs, and it turned the car over on its side, and I thought of you.
You're going to eat those ribs. We're not going to waste
it. Smokey's barbecue.
That's right. We're not going to waste any ribs. We're going to eat those ribs. So what if they fail? They're still good. Kiss it up to God. Professor, War Powers. Who has the right to enter into military conflict at the drop of a dime? And who has the right to declare war?
Here's the interesting thing. Now, the Constitution says that only Congress has the power to declare war. But it doesn't say what that means. There's some helicopters, I hear them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't tell us what that means to declare war. That could mean an official Congress meets and votes, Roosevelt comes and says, a day that lives in infamy and we need to declare war, and Congress says, hell yeah, we're declaring war. Well, it could be that. But it could also be something even more subtle. It could simply be Congress approving the budget of the military during a wartime footing because they're funding the war. And that means that Congress is approving of the war. Mm-hmm. It could also mean this. There are committees in Congress that the president is required to notify before he does anything militarily. Okay? Mm-hmm. And these little gangs of eight or whatever they are, that they have, these super subcommittees, they're usually very high-ranking officials from both parties that are involved in this. There's like 3 to 6 or 9, and it's evenly divided usually, or if it's not evenly divided, there'll be one extra from the majority party. And the president's required to notify them before going in. Now, one of the reasons for this is if there was something that we had to do very fast and very secret, and we notified all the members of Congress, it would no longer be secret, and it would no longer be very fast. And so they created, for national security purposes, these subcommittees, which it is good enough for the president to notify. So, and the president did. Now, did he give like when he dropped the Moab, did he give Congress, these congressmen 4 days notice or 2 hours notice or 10-minute notice? I don't know. But he gave them prior notice, and then it happened. If Congress doesn't say no, then have they declared war? Have they allowed? Have they created authorizations? And there's also debates on whether or not the authorization that George Bush got, which he did legitimately after 9/11, is that still in play? and I forget what these are. The use of force, or the use of military force, or something like that, is what they're called. That's not exactly right. I can't remember the title of them, but these local use of force approvals by Congress. A lot of these, they're too much, I guess they're called, the use of military action. Maybe that's it. But anyway, there are some that have been in place, and Obama and maybe even Trump, I don't know, but I know Obama did. He would make the claim that, hey, these, I don't need to go to Congress for permission because they're already permission granted via these. You know, that happened under W. Bush. So there's debates about that too. There are people that will tell you that the initiation of violence is the same thing as a declaration of war.
Wow.
And that by, let's say, Trump dropping the Moab was an initiation of violence. Okay? Initiation of force, the first to use it. Well, then some say that he did an act of war, which means he declared war without Congress's approval. There are others that say that, you know, the president has a right to do certain things. Now, the War Powers Act says that if the president involves us militarily somewhere with an immediate action, that he has to notify Congress, and that he has 60 days to get it done, and then an additional 30 days to withdraw his troops. So if he's doing something and we hit 60 days, then as long as he starts withdrawing people, he has a further 30 days to finish up whatever he's doing. So he basically gets 90 days to go and create violence somewhere in the world, and he doesn't require a declaration of war from Congress. So there you go. But let me, you know, and there's a lot of people out there that I've heard on other shows that say that Congress is supposed to get involved in the big wars like World War II, where they make declarations. But these little skirmishes and stuff that happen today, there's too many of them, and Congress shouldn't be involved in them. Now, this is something that I had forgotten about when I was on Tim Tapp's show.
Yes.
And it made me think about this. Okay, they have the right to define and punish piracy and felonies committed on the high seas. Okay.
Yes.
Against the laws of nations. All right. Well, you know, what is terrorism but piracy? Okay. Well, there's that. But here is the big one. To declare war, okay, like the big ones, like World War II, etc., and to grant letters of marque, or mark, actually is how you say it, letters of marque. I used to say marquee to drive my professor's mouth wild. They have the right to grant letters of marque and reprisal. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, we can grant letters of marque, which was like, you know, during the Revolutionary War, during the Civil War, we'd give a letter of marque to a boat, and then they could go out and create havoc in our name with our government approval, but not be actual, you know, Navy or actual Army of the American forces. But also, we can grant letters of reprisal. Okay, a reprisal, the marque and reprisal clause of Section 8, Article 1, basically is what we would today call these skirmishes, you know, like what Trump did and what Obama's done. And so, yes, even after all that, even after the War Powers Act, the Constitution still says that Congress is in charge of declaring war and declaring these skirmishes and whatnot, and should be involved. And so, by what we have being done by the presidents, they are, I think, in fact, in violation of our Constitution.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. And this is what I'm saying. Now, I've changed my position from what I steadfastly argued on Tim Tapp's show, because I got to thinking about this. Oh, wait a minute. If Congress has the right to issue letters of marque, which we don't do anymore, and reprisals, well, then what does that leave the president? Well, the president has to execute war. But even then, under the Articles of Confederation, during the Revolutionary War, Congress, the Confederated Congress of its time, but Congress nonetheless manipulated the war. And so if they, made all these decisions and whatnot, well, as a military member, I can't tell you anything that makes me madder faster than a legislator getting involved in where we can fight, when we can shoot, who we can shoot at, and all that crap. My position, I think, in any business, let us do our job. You tell us what you want, and then we'll go make it happen. And that I've always felt was the president's job. But the more I research the founding fathers' debates on these things, the more I realize that their intent is that Congress actually is involved in all this. Now, what can Congress do? Well, Congress can't really say you can't go past the 38th parallel. But what they can say is, if you go past the 38th parallel, we cut funding off. Now, does this Congress have the cojones to do those things? I don't know. The Speaker of the House needs an added cojones.
Wait a minute, Professor. Wait a minute. Eisenhower and Patton and even General Washington would be pulling their hair based on your interpretation.
Not Washington.
Well, okay.
Washington is the one that established this interpretation for me.
Yes, he did.
Let's not forget, Eisenhower became president, but Truman declared war on Korea, not Eisenhower.
Exactly.
And he did it without congressional approval.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
And let's remember this, that the War Powers Act was set to punish Richard Nixon for winning the Vietnam War. But let's also not forget that the Vietnam War was fought with a declaration of war by Congress. Do not forget that LBJ, a Democrat president, lied to Congress about the Gulf of Tonkin incident, completely made it up, and then went to Congress and said, oh, look, the Gulf of Tonkin, the ship got blown up, we got to fight Vietnam. And Congress gave him authorization to fight, to escalate. Okay? So it was based on a false principle, or a false premise, rather, by a Democrat president. But Congress nonetheless approved war with Vietnam. And Nixon, therefore, didn't have to go to Congress to get more approval, but he had the audacity to actually win it when a Democrat couldn't.
Yeah, see,
that caused
but Professor, these little patsies on Capitol Hill, they don't really want war because it's a PR hassle. They would actually cut funding so that brothers would die on hills in Vietnam. I mean, why would you?
Well, they had the cojones to cut funding.
Yeah.
They did it in such a way. I mean, look, the killing fields of Cambodia are the blood of all that, the millions that died. The blood is on the Democrat Party. But because they never have to stand up and defend anything or be held accountable for it. But trust me, God will hold their souls accountable.
Yeah.
And they're, the ones that have died, and most of them are dead now, are paying the price for what they've done.
So literally, it's up to Congress to approve Tomahawk missiles going into Syria, to approve Okay.
No, but to approve that we are going to do things like this, are we in a war right now? Yes. So the arguments can be made whether Trump has to go and get further approval from Congress or not. And quite honestly, I think since 9/11 and the approval of us going after, just because they're now called ISIS and not Al-Qaeda or the Muslim Brotherhood or whatever, they're all the same. They're a bunch of ragheads that follow the Quran and hate Americans and want to kill us. All right, so I don't think we need any more authorization. What we need is a president with some spine that was willing to kill the terrorists.
Yeah.
And this one appears to have that. Okay, Congress, while they can get involved in those decisions, I don't recommend it because they don't have the expertise.
Thank you.
What they'll do is muck it up and screw it all up.
Yes.
But do they have the authority constitutionally? Yeah, you bet. I don't like that, but they do.
Okay, now
But
I have to
the
ask you
only
this.
teeth they have in this, the only thing they can do, though, is if the military says, you know what, go pound salt.
Yes.
Congress can say, okay, we're cutting your funding. And then the president's hands are tied.
See, now I want to go back to the founding fathers here. Was this Thomas Jefferson's libertarian way of keeping us out of wars?
Believe it or not, this was George Washington's doing.
Really?
Look, go look at the letters. Washington is the biggest whiner in the world.
Yes,
I thought of him as a kid.
That's true.
When I grew up, I could not stand George Washington because all the letters I read, these letters to different congressmen in the Continental Congress, it was, oh my gosh, we're hungry. We're eating wood. We don't have blankets. You won't approve anything. You guys are spineless. I mean, and I thought of him as the biggest whiner in the world. When I got older, especially when I got in the military and realized how dependent we were on Congress voting for money. And so then, and when I went in, Reagan had just got elected.
Yes.
Okay, and then I went in. And so I saw what we were doing, what the military was like under Jimmy Carter. And then I saw what it was like under Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronald Reagan got us funding, and he got us uniforms, and he got us training, he got us equipment, and all kinds of things.
And socks.
And life was so much better. Yeah. So, you know, then I began to understand what Washington was trying to do. But with all of those whining letters he sent to Congress, what he was saying was, yes, I'm in charge of the military. I'm the commander-in-chief, the general of the armies, and I'm deferring to you knuckleheads up there in the Continental Congress in Pennsylvania to provide for the military and to make these decisions. So he deferred to Congress. And then when he was president and commander-in-chief, he did the same.
Mm-hmm.
He deferred to Congress and civilian rule.
Mm-hmm.
And so those parameters were established by none other than the indispensable man himself, George Washington.
Wow. Wow. You challenge me here, because I am of the impression, based on the reading of the Constitution, that first and foremost we didn't need a War Powers Act. Number one.
Well, we don't. Yeah, we don't need.
That's it.
We have something called a Constitution, which was sufficient.
Exactly. And if there was someone with a grain of salt in value as a legislator, they would work to overturn the War Powers Act and get us back into the identity that Congress had at the beginning. And the War Powers Act is a coward's man's way of ruining a commander-in-chief, really. But the whole concept of deference to the Congress in terms of involving themselves in, they can't keep a secret.
No. Well, Benjamin Franklin once said that the only way 3 people in Washington can keep a secret is if 2 are dead.
Exactly. They can't keep a secret. How do you fight the Russians? How do you fight the Islamists? How do you fight the Latin American terrorists? How do you fight them if there's someone sitting over on Capitol Hill sending out press releases every 5 minutes from his desk talking about what the president is doing with the military? How do you fight a war?
How many conversations has Donald Trump had with ambassadors or presidents of other countries like Mexico and Russia? And those conversations were leaked.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me, why would Trump go to Congress with anything and tell them anything? If I was Trump, I would do exactly what he's doing, and that's doing end around Congress. Now, is it constitutional? I don't know. But look at what Abraham Lincoln, our beloved leader of the Republican Party, did. All right?
Yeah.
And what did he say? He says, well, I don't always know if what I'm doing is constitutional. That's for historians to decide. But I'm doing what I think is right. And so he does what he thinks is right. Thomas Jefferson did the same thing with the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah.
I contend that it was highly unconstitutional.
It
but
was.
it was such a great deal. How do you pass it up? Right? So he did it and said, history will judge. Well, now we have a whole bunch of inbred people running around Louisiana talking about what good food they have.
Love that gumbo.
High five. So it must have been okay. But think about this. We have the illegal bureaucrat state.
Yes.
And I often thought, why do we have that? How did that happen? Would you be shocked to know that it's because of the assassination of President Garfield?
Are you serious?
I'm the professor, right? So don't I always make these outlandish claims?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Like Thanksgiving is a celebration of the end of communism in the country. Well,
oh yeah, it is.
We have an entire unconstitutional bureaucratic state because President Garfield was assassinated. Now, who was he assassinated? Who assassinated Garfield? It was a disgruntled employee of the executive branch that had been fired.
Wow.
And so this all comes down to, do presidents have a right to fire people? Well, you know what? It was ruled, yes, presidents did. And we only got like 14 minutes left, so we don't have time to get into all that. But
yeah.
It was established that presidents did have the right to fire the people of the executive branch. And that changed, by the way, because of Garfield's assassination. Now, a disgruntled employee of the executive branch was let go and decided to kill Garfield because he was upset. So what happened from that is Congress passed the Pendleton Act.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pendleton Act created a professional merit-based civil service where you would now take a test and you would no longer be appointed by political parties. And the law suggests that when an election, the Republicans won, then all the jobs got filled by Republicans. Democrats won, everybody got fired, and Democrats filled those jobs. And the pendulum swung back and forth. Now, I kind of prefer that, by the way, but it was ruled bad because we didn't have a professional bureaucracy. We didn't have, and we had things like presidents getting killed over it. So what they did was, they established all that and created a bureaucracy, now a meritocracy. And these were supposed to be disinterested people that would come together and create a level of government under the Congress that would take care of we the people because their expertise in their jobs would be what they were trying to serve instead of the Constitution and instead of us as constituents. Now, there was something called the Humphrey Executive versus the U.S. Supreme Court decision. Humphrey got fired, and this led to a whole debate on whether presidents can fire regulatory heads of agencies. And the Supreme Court then came out and said, no, the executive branch, the president, cannot fire people that are part of the civil service. And so all this time in our history, after the first Congress, which decided presidents could fire executive branch people, we have come full circle to where the Supreme Court under Humphrey Executive versus U.S. decided that no, the heads of these agencies could not be fired. And so basically, the executive branch is filled with high and low employees. And the low employees, or regular rank and file, are hired under the quote-unquote meritocracy, which is mostly Democrats. And the executive of the executive branch, meaning the president, cannot fire them because they have to be taking care of the civil service and unions, etc. The heads of these things, even if they're appointed by the president, now he cannot fire because the Supreme Court has ruled under Humphrey that he doesn't have that power anymore because it's a meritocracy, etc. And that Congress has to get involved in this. And so now what you have are people are diametrically opposed to the president's will and his agenda. And the president can't get rid of them because of these rules, like under Humphrey and the Civil Service Act, etc. And so they're there creating, as a shadow government for the Obama administration. They're causing havoc for the Trump administration. So I believe in our lifetime, we're going to see this entire thing and we will see from there what's going on.
So what the Supreme Court is virtually saying is that without the permission of Congress, the executive cannot fire bureaucrats. Meaning that if you have you have a 20%,
or under the civil service,
exactly, if you have a 20% cut across the board, it has to be in other things that can't be in employees, lest Congress give the authority to the president, and that means that they have to get rid of the Humphrey and the Pendleton Acts, so that civil servants are serving at will to the president of the United States. How's that going to fly in this particular Tony town?
Well, I don't know if you can overturn those, and I'm not sure we want the president to have that authority, because if the president has that authority, then Obama could get rid of everybody he doesn't like. Now, not that they didn't do that anyway.
Yeah,
the media won't care, and government won't care, and the judiciary won't care. But let Trump try that and watch all hell break loose.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that. We need this to be reexamined, and we need it to be reestablished under this, because, quite honestly, the entire. Hey, Kim.
Yes, sir. You're about to.
I'm going to let you close up. My daughter's called 7 times in a row, and I keep sending her voicemail. She keeps calling back, so there may be an emergency.
Okay.
Let me get that, and I'll be right back.
All right. Well.
Or I'll say good night.
Good night, sir. Thank you so much. Wow. Now that was very educational, people. That was very educational. Dr. Michael Jones, the underground professor. You'll find him at undergroundprofessor.us. We're going to take our last commercial break of the evening, and I do apologize for the tardiness in it, but listen, we got to be honest with you about what's happening in Washington. The worst thing that we can do, especially with Berserk Bobcat Saloon coming up at 11 p.m. right after this show, the worst thing that we can do is set you up to believe that without a shadow of a doubt, campaign promises are going to be fortuitous immediately. There are some distortions. There are some dysfunctions. There are some catastrophes of governance that need to be addressed before we even get into some of the talks that we've been having about welfare reform, Obamacare, tax reform. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to cross over $20 trillion of national debt. The Chinese are concerned that should North Korea continue to act in its, ornery behavior, to resist making payment on our national debt to China because they support North Korea. There's a lot of stuff going on around the world, and there are lots of people in Washington, D.C. that just want to give you propaganda instead of the truth. Our jobs here at TECN is to give you the truth, and that's why I'm very glad the professor taught what he taught tonight. We'll be right back, right after these messages.
So what do you think about ebooks? Maybe you've never read an ebook before, but you're considering giving it a try. Or maybe you've been reluctant to try ebooks because you don't want to buy another expensive electronic device. Or maybe you already enjoy ebooks, but you haven't been able to find titles from your favorite Christian authors. Whatever your situation, ChristianBook.com has the solution. Your trusted source for print books for over 30 years now offers ebooks. Our always free CBD reader allows you to read on the devices you already own without spending money on a new device. Thousands of Christian ebooks at ChristianBook.com means you can shop with confidence and choose from the titles you want. Plus, we are adding new titles all the time. Browse our huge selection of low-priced Christian ebooks the same way you would printed books, only now you can go from shopping to reading in seconds. Simply select the ebook you wish to purchase, confirm your account information, and start reading. Free samples of every ebook are available, so you can preview the book first, before you buy it. Plus, there's no lengthy app downloads and updates. Accessing the CBD Reader is as easy as going to cbdreader.christianbook.com and bookmarking the page. The CBD Reader holds your ebooks and bookmarks for you, no matter what device you're on. So, you can take your entire ebook library wherever you go and pick up right where you left off. Our customizable options make it possible to read your ebooks in different font sizes and styles. Want a large print version? You've got it in seconds with a simple click of the mouse. Already own a dedicated e-reader? Download your ebooks to your computer from your christianbook.com account and transfer them to your device. Try ebooks at christianbook.com and start reading your favorite books in seconds. Easy, economical, everywhere you want to read. Welcome to christianbook.com ebooks.
Hi, my name is Christopher Arnold. I'm the executive chef of Infused Restaurant, and today I'm going to walk you through some of the meals that we prepare here. We're making a pizza. We use French Italian sausage that we cook here and slice it up. Our pizza dough is in-house made. Our pizza sauce is in-house made. So everything is fresh and ingredient. This is our Thai curry chicken. The sauce is made with coconut milk and a Thai red curry. It is juicy chicken thighs as well as some mixed vegetables, served with jasmine rice and pita bread. So now we're going to prepare our famous blackened tilapia and grits, our fish and grits on the menu. Once the fish is ready, then our meal will be complete. Let me tell you about our infused beef burger. When we kick the spice up just a little bit with our infused sauce, we start off with 80-20 USDA round chuck ham patty burgers, like half a pound of burgers, and we're going to grill it to perfection. After I flip the burger, we add the sauce and let it cook on into the meat just a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of pepper jack cheese to this burger, spice it up a bit. All right.
6339 Allentown Road. Make it your place this weekend. 6339 Allentown Road, Temple Hills, Maryland. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the best food in Washington. Hands down. It's Infused Restaurant, 6339 Allentown Road, open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and of course during the weekdays. Listen, if you want a good meal and you want a great deal, Infused Restaurant, it is.
From day's first light till night's last glimmer, your satisfaction is our responsibility. On the range or in the field of duty, you can rely on Brownell's lifetime guaranteed gun parts, tools, and supplies. Anytime, any place. It's how we've done business since 1939. Brownell's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Exceptional Conservative Network. New Day Black and Red, Thursday nights, of course, at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Can be heard from Dallas, Fort Worth, or Fort Worth, Dallas, as well as the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Stay tuned. Coming up right after this program is my very good friend, Sir Mark the Bloviating Zeppelin from bloviatingzeppelin.net. BZ is coming up with Berserk Bobcat Saloon. And it's not salon, it's saloon. Okay, because it's not one of those kind of parties. But I want you to remember, as I tell you every week, I want you to remember this if you forget everything else I've ever said. God bless America. It's time for America to bless God. Good night and God bless from Washington, D.C. We will see you on next week for the Exceptional Conservative Show, as well as New Day Black and Red. And we may be doing a special program on Saturday called An American Conservatives Exploration of the Inspired Word of God. Stay tuned. God bless.